Hey everybody, this is Scott Swinchock. Welcome to the Sink or Swin podcast. Over the course of the year, we're going to be bringing on quite a few of my friends who happen to be subject matter experts on various financial topics, and hopefully we're going to provide you with some relevant information over the course of this year. Thanks again, and welcome to the Sink or Swin podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sink or Swin podcast. I'm here today with Lauren Tarbuk, the Senior Vice President at Magnify Payroll. She's also an owner. As many of you know, I work with a lot of small business owners, and that's their exact audience over there. We've actually had some mutual clients, and I wanted to take a moment to have Lauren tell you a little bit about what they do.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you having me. So we're an outsourced payroll company, similar to an ADP or a Paychex. We live and breathe right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. However, we do handle clients in all 50 states. And that's what we do. We help businesses outsource the payroll and HR function of their business so they can focus on what makes them money.
And I think that's very important too, because the minute with business that I realized that you need to delegate some of those duties, as an owner or, you have the ability to do what you do. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Where you can make more revenue. So if you're trying to wear too many hats with your business, i.e. take care of your own payroll, and you don't have someone to do that, I think it can get away from what is more important, that's you servicing your clients and going out and doing what you need to do. So I think it's of the utmost importance to be able to, rely on a professional like you guys. And I'd say that one of the common misconceptions in regard to soliciting a payroll service or, hiring them is that it's going to be expensive.
Oh, sure.
So, how do you feel about that? How do you combat that when someone says, oh, it's too expensive, it's not in the budget?
Sure. Well, the good news for the client is it's become pretty commoditized and very competitive from a spend situation. But it's one of the smallest line items on somebody's. Now, payroll in general, paying your employees tends to be one of the larger line items in their budget. However, paying for payroll services, I feel like, is a great bang for your buck, just because in addition to getting great technology in place that enables you to run efficiently, you also have that extra assurance of tax liability falling on someone else rather than the business. And so it's almost like an insurance policy, a peace of mind when you outsource your payroll, because if anything goes wrong, it's on the payroll company to take care of, not the client.
It's almost like hiring a CPA, right? You're not going to do your own taxes. You'd rather offset that risk to a certified professional, and that's exactly what a business owner can do.
Sure.
With a
it's a great opportunity to justify the cost, but again, it typically is not a big spend for everything you get. All the great technology, all the efficiencies that you create, in addition to the tax expertise and compliance. I think, obviously I live in this world, so I believe in it, but I have seen people really benefit from outsourcing their payroll. Actually, about 80% of folks outsource their payroll. So that might be higher than you think.
Yeah, that's it. That is
There's only a handful that don't.
No.
And within that 80%, there's a ton of options. So it's a matter of finding what fits best for the business.
That makes total sense. And one of the things that I talk about a lot too with business owners and people in charge of actually doing payroll is the time value of money, right? How much time does it take you to do something that an organization that just focuses on it, like Magnify Payroll, can do maybe in an hour? It might take you 3 or 4, right? So it ultimately comes down to how much is an hour of your time worth and what are you willing to expend?
Sure.
So I'd like to add too, on another note, right, that SWIN is a client of Magnify Payroll.
Our largest client.
I wish that we were the largest client, but no, we, like I said, we took that jump a couple of years ago, and it's been fantastic. It's easy. We have the ability to just shoot an email over. We have the ability to reach out with a text, call. Someone's answering the phone, and what I find solace in is the fact that you know who we are. Right.
Sure.
I think that that's extremely important. I've been with organizations, and I'm not going to knock an ADP or a Paychex. They serve their purpose.
Sure.
But for being a small business owner like myself, I've found that I'm just an account number there, right? Don't make a big enough splash to impact their bottom line. So, a lot of people or most of the representatives that I talk to don't even know who you are. But anytime that I reach out to you guys or my office manager reaches out to you guys, we, within minutes, we get answered. So.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. So,
well, it's nice to, there are so many options in our space, a lid to every pot. And so it's nice that our clients really do fit well with us. And that's one thing that we dig in on up front is just to make sure that there's a mutual fit and a mutual benefit to working together. So I'm glad we uncovered that.
Yeah. Oh, I tell Tim all the time too. I'm like, let's push the limits. Let's be a pain in their ass. You know what I mean? Let's try.
Not you, Scott.
No. Let's just do a lot of emails. Let's see when they finally say no. But you know what? They've never said no. So that gives me peace of mind that as a business owner and as a decision maker for the company, that we made the absolute right decision going with Magnify Payroll. So
well, thank you. That's a ringing endorsement. Appreciate that.
I guess one of the other, topics that I think that clients or prospective clients would find extremely valuable would be talking about some of the common mistakes that small businesses make or business owners make in regard to trying to process payroll.
Sure.
So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, we want everybody to be perfect, but sometimes mistakes are made, which we help our clients fix. I would say some of the tangible things that I see would be miscalculation of overtime or overpaying PTO hours when somebody leaves. Those things are typically hard to track unless you have some automated systems in place. But the good news is, it doesn't have to happen that way. As many things as you can tie into one solution, the better. As many processes as you can automate as opposed to having as a manual process, that alleviates some mistakes that we see as well. The last little mistake would be just, not knowing. So as an example, going into a new state, all the tax compliance related to that new state, there's always some question marks there too. But again, if you have the right partner in place in that relationship, you really do have kind of a guru leading you through that process. In regards to the manual processes, those are things that we always try to uncover as we go in and work with a prospective business. What are you using a spreadsheet for? What are you tracking outside the system? And things like that, we see obviously time and attendance. We do still see some people using manual timesheets or time clocks to collect hours, and then you're doing a manual calculation of overtime that then you're putting into a system.
Seems to be like a lot of unnecessary work.
It is, but at the same time, we see people doing things because they've always done them that way. And so if you haven't evaluated processes along with technology, you do run into people that are still doing things manually. Time off requests on a piece of paper that sits on a manager's desk. Again, if you're not collecting some of that stuff up front or electronically and having it all in one system, things get missed, things are overpaid. And so we see mistakes associated more with manual processes than we do with just, fat fingering a payroll. And so, the great news is there are automated ways to accommodate and help alleviate some of that burden of compliance. But those are just some of the things we see.
Well, that makes sense. It seems like automation is the key to the future. And I hear that all the time too. And I know I'm guilty of it on occasion where I'm comfortable doing something a certain way. And you resist change or evolution, right? Because this is the way I've always done it.
Right.
When there is, in fact, a better way.
Like my way of folding towels as an example. Yeah. That's the better way.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know until someone tells you, right?
Exactly. So we do try to uncover that in a sales process and try to be a sounding board. I try to be as objective as I can just to uncover exactly what's going on with the business. But it's fun getting people to say things out loud, because, often just saying them out loud and acknowledging that some of the processes are antiquated or clunky or manual is really fun. And if we do business together at the end of it, that's fun too. But facilitating those conversations and being a sounding board is probably my favorite part of the work I do.
So in a segue, Magnify, you're obviously, you're a business, you're out there looking for new clients, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So is there a threshold to which you'll work with, a minimum or a maximum amount of employees? What, in fact, does your ideal client look like? Who are you going after to say, you know what, we can help?
Sure. Yeah. Our smallest clients have 1 employees. We work with a lot of S Corp payrolls through CPA relationships. Our technology is robust. We configure the technology to fit, so it can handle up into the thousands.
Oh, wow.
We're not selling in that enterprise space, but we can sell into the couple thousand employees.
So it's scalable.
It's scalable. Yeah.
So a business that's looking to grow, that might have 50 employees, and their plan is to, grow into 100 to 250, you have solutions that will grow with that business as well.
It's a series of on and off switches, and that might be oversimplification, but really it is. It's all the same platform. Our 1 employee companies, of course, are using the system differently than our 1,000 employee companies, but it's scale to fit. It's scale to fit needs, and it's scale to fit budget. And so we win business just because we have a great technology that we work in.
Okay, so what about solutions for 1099 employees versus W-2? Because you got a lot of companies that are going to take advantage of independent contractors versus having W-2 employees and having to, take care of the benefits and everything.
Yeah,
so do you guys
I think
have
that's
solutions?
I think that's a great opportunity to even talk a bit more about the proper classification of employees. In my 15 years in this space, it's always been a topic of conversation. But we do have solutions. We pay a ton of 1099s through our payroll service. We pay a ton of W-2s as well. The difference being taxes. You withhold taxes on one type of employee, and you do not withhold taxes on a 1099. But they are really cracking down, and they've been saying this for years, but on how employees are classified, 1099 versus W-2. And, it's never fun to be audited, but that's always a red flag that goes up when you're paying somebody as a 1099 and then you switch them to W-2 or vice versa. So it's really important that you're classifying
So when you're kind of
employees the right
flipping
way.
back and forth between the two, it's going to pop a flag up.
Yep, especially on the same name. If somebody's getting a W-2 from the same company that they're getting a 1099 from, that can definitely raise some red flags. The other thing that I've seen raise red flags over the years is if you're paying contractors, great, you're not matching their payroll taxes. However, if that contractor and you part ways and they file an unemployment claim, that's like an automatic ticket to an audit. So, it's really important that you classify employees the right way. If they're true employees, you have to do the right thing by matching their taxes and withholding and paying all those payroll taxes.
See, I can make a testament to exactly what you're talking about, because in the financial services industry, we have the office staff that is W-2 employees, right?
Right.
But the agents and the financial advisors within the office are 1099 independent contractors. So we are filing a mismatched, or if you will, or a hybrid payroll where
Sure. And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's really when you have the same employee getting a couple different types of forms from the same business that can typically raise some red flags.
Well, yeah,
but you guys would pass the duties test, basically the test that the IRS has laid out, which is available online. It's all about really behavioral control. And an HR advisor would be able to help advise on this too. But from the little I know and the little experience I have with it, you guys would be able to pass that duties test, no problem. You're not controlling your 1099s in the time that they show up for work or the tools that they're using. They're really just providing a deliverable to you guys and passing that test.
Yeah, and I just wanted to hit on the fact that how simple it actually is. All the W-2 information Magnify Payroll has, and then on a weekly basis or a biweekly basis when we're doing our pay runs every other Friday, we're getting reached out to just asking, hey, are there any 1099s or what are their amounts this week?
Sure.
And it's that simple. So. Yep. I mean, that is,
and it's nice too, because then you have record of all those 1099 payments. So even though Magnify is not withholding and paying taxes on those folks, you have record of all those 1099 payments, and you're not having to go to an outside party at the end of the year to do that year-end filing.
And I think what is something that's not often talked about, but is kind of perception is reality, if you will.
We say that all the time.
Is the fact that when you're running an organization and you're paying independent contractors, and they're getting an actual check processed via direct deposited from a third party, it gives validation to your organization, right? And that was part of the reason that I wanted to do it that way, rather than getting the big old, the big old checkbook and going and
Or
writing.
Venmo.
Yeah, literally. Or, just doing it that way,
Sure.
then it doesn't seem real. So by doing it this way, we are a full-fledged organization, and payroll is going to hit every other Friday. When you look at your bank account, your money's going to be in there for the work that you did. And I think that, that there's something to be said for that.
Absolutely.
So, I appreciate that. And again, it's just, I know that my independent contractors, do as well. So
Good. Awesome.
Now that we talked a little bit about what Magnify Payroll does and the solutions that it can provide for a company, I thought that it would be beneficial to talk about what the discovery looks like, what the process looks like from becoming a prospect to a client.
Oh, sure.
So can you, Lauren, talk a little bit about what a meeting would look like, whether it's a first meeting, second meeting, onboarding, and what the process is?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it really depends. It depends on the business, but I can tell you candidly how I usually get into a new opportunity is there's been some pain identified, and usually a relationship of mine is the one that's making the introduction. And I work with great relationships, as I have for some years now. Once I'm in with a client, a prospective client, it's really about just uncovering exactly what they need and how to position the solution to best fit them. So one employee client is not going to need the same as 1,000 employee client, but we usually are running through the process, hire to retire, of how they're handling things internally, what kind of processes they have in place for, as an example, onboarding a new employee, if that's being done manually or automated, how they get the employee into the payroll system, where else the employee information goes after they're onboarded, for instance, benefits, retirement, things of that nature. Also taking into the process of PTO, managing PTO policies, how people are requesting time off, time and attendance. So just really digging into some of the business processes associated with an HR or a finance team. We usually are creating some value in there. So by the time we choose to move forward together, it's been uncovered that there's going to be a fit and a benefit to working with one another. We've agreed on a budget that makes sense on both sides and chosen to move forward together. How we move forward together is collaborative. So depending on what we're building out, if it's just payroll, there's just some information exchange or extracted.
So it's totally customizable, right?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on what the business needs. So if we're just, moving a small payroll client over, we're going into their current platform, pulling all the information that we need, year to dates, and auditing that information. But also, if we're moving a larger client that has, many products that they're going to be using with us, that might mean building out their onboarding packet or onboarding packets to fit certain employee populations. It might mean collaborating on PTO balances that might currently live on a spreadsheet and shoring those up.
For an expectation standpoint, what is the lead time on being able to get a solution set up for like a small business that's just really simple payroll versus putting together a way more robust solution for your bigger clients?
I think that's a fair question. As far as an expectation standpoint, we regularly move a weekly payroll client or a biweekly payroll client. They can process with their old processor for one pay, process with us for the next. It's really, just a matter of just getting all that year-to-date information in, and our team does that very well, very efficiently. So I'm working with a client now that pays every Friday. It's just a matter of figuring out when we can comfortably move, picking the first check date, and going from there. So we can move simple payrolls very easily, a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
Some of the larger opportunities that we work on might have a multi-product implementation. We might be implementing a new time and attendance solution that's integrated. We do like a little bit more lead time there because every business is so different. So there's some collaboration there. So I would say, 6 weeks to 8 weeks for a larger client is a pretty safe bet. And we also like to move on a timing that makes sense. So
like the start or end of a quarter,
right?
or
We
the
might
calendar year,
advise
fiscal year.
exactly. We might advise waiting for a break in the quarter. From a tax liability standpoint, sometimes that makes more sense. And so it's collaborative. It's not something that Magnify is communicating to the client. You will move that at this date. It's very much a conversation on pros and cons of how we might capture that first check date together. And then we just kind of move our timelines back from that targeted first check date.
So when it comes to these various solutions, obviously, you guys like with an ADP or paychecks, they're they're considered a PEO, right? They're going to handle
sometimes, yeah.
They're going to handle a lot of whether it be the healthcare and all that aspect
Sure.
of exactly what someone's doing. So I guess my question to you and for the audience is, do you guys have the ability to do that as well? Is there an a la carte menu? Is there a bundled services option when it comes to pricing? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. All of the above. And so I have in my experience unbundled a PEO. We take a best in breed approach. So what we do is we know we handle payroll HR technology best. But some of the things that when we're unbundling a PEO as an example, insurance, HR help, some of that we have to find a new home for. And again, when we talk about best in breed approach, we're typically doing it at a more affordable rate and providing a higher level of service. And so in your example that you mentioned with a PEO, we would be taking the HR technology and the payroll technology, giving them a great solution that fits their needs. But to supplement that, I would bring in a relationship that would be like an outsourced HR consultant, or maybe 401k provider that's not, because we're not the record.
We can do that.
Yeah,
we can do
exactly. Yep, exactly. And so we're bringing in strategic relationships that kind of supplement our efforts. And it's still a team event. It's still very much a collaborative event. But it's just you have that additional relationship.
See, I'm a big believer in that too. And the way that I view a client's needs, it's like a highway, right? So you got all these lanes. Okay. So you got payroll, you got benefits, right?
Sure.
You got possibly like life insurance, you got the 401k. We're all traveling in the same direction, right? But if you have a professional that is exceptional at what they do in each one of those lanes, you're going to get where you're going to need to go faster, right?
Sure.
But in my opinion, there's less accidents. And
I love that.
Selfishly, when I look at someone that says, oh, we're going to bundle this and we're going to handle this all in-house, I think that you get an inferior product.
I agree with that.
Because most of the time when they do that in-house, even though they say, oh, it's advantageous to do in-house, the right hand doesn't know what it's doing with the left hand.
It's very siloed in my experience. Even in the model that you mentioned earlier, it's very siloed, and it's also so much harder to unbundle. So let's say one of those cars on the highway, you're not feeling.
Yeah.
It's so much easier just to, explore just that piece of it rather than that whole relationship, because that's so hard to move. So
exactly. So if you're upset with your insurance provider, okay, go shop a new insurance provider, right? You shouldn't have to unwind an entire bundled service.
Correct.
It makes no sense. And that's the one thing at our firm, SWIN, we know our lanes. If you want us to assist you with getting, group life insurance and the rates for those people, we'll be able to do that. If you want us to handle a simple IRA, a SEP IRA, a 401k, whatever kind of qualified plan you need, we're going to handle that, and we're going to do it the best of our ability. And we're going to work with someone like you guys, because obviously most of those are going to be pre-tax, right? So we want those things to be recognized on the payroll and come off, right, without paying taxes on those, tax deferred, right?
Yep.
So I think that that's, important to note, that we want to be able to have it correct for an employee. You make $100,000, you put $6,000 into your 401k, just based on that fact, your net income is going to be $94,000. You're not going to pay taxes on 100, right?
Right.
So we want to make sure that that stuff's correct. But I hit on the fact that we know what we do well.
Sure.
And we're going to stay in our lanes based off of that analogy before.
I agree wholeheartedly.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
What I want to do now is take a little bit of time to talk about retirement planning and how it interacts with payroll, and how we would be able to work together, and the advantages of having two different sets of eyes or two different specializations doing what they do. So Lauren, can you take some time to explain or elaborate on exactly what it is that Magnify will be able to do when it comes to a business owner that wants to implement a retirement plan for their employees?
Sure. Well, the first and foremost thing that we do is we bring in partners. Again, you mentioned earlier the staying in your lane. And certainly we're not advising, we're not creating the plan, we're not setting it up, but we are helping from a administrative perspective to administer that plan. And so how we fit is once they have a relationship with the record keeper, TPA, and advisor to set up that 401k plan or move that over from a prior provider, we're helping to automate a lot of the steps in that. So at a very basic level, we get a copy of the plan document. We're taking a look at if there's a match, what the match maxes out at, current deductions of the employee, what they've elected. But as far as getting that information to the record keeper, there's a few different ways that we do that. One is, hey, it's a payroll report, a 401k report that they get at the end of their pay period that they're manually inputting. We don't love manual input, as we mentioned earlier. So we do seek to automate that when we can as well. So through our solution, there can either be a 180 or a 360 connection, meaning that information flows from our system into the record keeper and kind of automates that. It takes that manual step of inputting it off the business owner's plate, and then triggers an ACH so that the funds are swept out of that business accounts and goes into the 401k timely.
Do you often have owners that ask you what kind of plan that they should set up?
Sometimes, but again, that's something that I would have to bring an expert in on because we're not advising, just like we're not advising on benefits, we're not advising on HR. And so again, that's a great opportunity to bring an expert in and help them, because I know in addition to all the benefits of setting up a 401k plan for the first time with that Secure Act 2.0, there's a lot of creative things that I've seen that business owners in particular can do to fund their own retirement and shield a lot of that from taxes. So maybe you might expand on that, because I've seen some really great ways that business owners in particular are really benefiting.
Yeah. So to touch base, a government program that most people don't know about right now is actually called Secure Act 2.0. And it is basically incentivizing business owners to create new retirement plans for their employees. It's not applicable to anyone that already has a plan in place. You will be incentivized if this is a new plan, and you have the ability to get back tax credits dollar for dollar up to $1,000 per employee. And you have the ability, the ability to get $5,000 a year to offset the costs of the implementation. So that could, in essence, pay your payroll costs for a few years.
It certainly could. Yeah, it certainly
could. And this is a program literally that most people don't know about. It kind of flew under the radar. So anyone out there that's a business owner looking to possibly set up a new retirement plan for their employees, please feel free to reach out. We have a bunch of literature on it. We're extremely knowledgeable. We can explain the pros and cons of doing it, what it means to you, what it means to your employees. But I mean, I could actually do an entire segment on the Secure Act 2.0, but that's not what today's about. Going back to what you said, though, in regard to, reaching out to experts, right? Sure. That's what we're going to do. Someone makes a decision that, hey, we're going to set up a retirement plan. We want to give something to our employees. What we're going to do is kind of fair balance all the different options that an employee and that an employer has, whether that be a simple IRA, whether that be a SEP IRA, whether that be a 401k. There's going to be pros and cons to each different bucket that you can create for your employees. And ultimately, we work for both you and the employees. So we want to implement the plan that is going to be most efficacious to your organization. I think once we land on something, to reiterate what you said, obviously we're going to get you over who the record keeper is going to be. You're going to need, obviously, the ACH instructions on where to send the funds. We're going to need salary reduction agreements from all the employees. We want to make sure that we dot all our I's, we cross all our T's, and that it, is kind of rolled out without any hitches.
Sure.
So that's a lot of the stuff that we're going to do on the back end for businesses where we actually interact, because at the end of the day, what do we want to do?
Service the client.
And we want to take as much off of their plate as possible. So, I think that it's a pretty good explanation of what someone can expect when setting up a plan. What do you see though what if someone wants to transfer a plan? Do you know what I mean? They already have one in place.
Sure. A business.
Yeah.
Okay. So I more often see this when it comes to, as you mentioned earlier, like the ADP and the Paychecks of the world have their own record keeping platform. So if they're moving to us for payroll, it doesn't make a lot of sense that they keep their 401k where it is, because you lose some of that automation and everything that those companies sold. So in those scenarios, I would bring in an expert to again help them shop for the best retirement record keeping platform as well. And it's pretty seamless. In years past, there was that extended blackout period time when you're moving from point A to point B.
It's going to be like 60 days.
Yep.
And a lot of people are confused by exactly what's happening. Are my funds moving? Are they transferring? Am I losing money in the market?
Sure.
Am I making money?
Can the employee still put in?
Exactly.
That kind of, we get questions like that all the time, which again, we defer to the experts to answer those. But it's, once you have that education on how seamless a move can be, you're assured that you can do that, pretty easily.
Well, I think it's a misconception that it's extremely difficult.
Right.
And the reason that a lot of people aren't willing to entertain the idea of actually switching over their retirement plan is because there's going to be a lot of legwork. It's going to be cumbersome. This is going to be really hard. Well, if you actually work with people that know what they're doing, it's not going to be hard.
Well, we see that on the payroll side too. It's, it feels like this monumental move. And what happens is it's just a little bit of paperwork. And then our team does a lot of the legwork to move information over. And it becomes like, oh, wait, that's better than I was expecting. And I see that on the 401k side as well.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, a statistic out there is the fact that, and this is absolutely crazy, that 90% of financial advisors manage less than 5 retirement plans. Think about that. So someone's going to come to you and say, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. Well, do you actually know what you're doing? Because again, 9 out of 10 advisors, 90% manage less than 5 plans. And in my opinion, that doesn't make you an expert, right? So we're in that 10%, right? We know what we're doing. So we're going to try to make it as seamless as possible, because at the end of the day, as a business owner, right, that is a benefit to your business, right? It doesn't generate revenue. We help you because what do you want to do? You want to attract talent. You want to retain talent.
Correct.
And a good benefits package can help you do that.
It's everything.
Yeah. And it's, who do you partner with? What's the network that you have? So we want to be able to check the boxes. And I know, just like you do, we're part of the process that's going to help you, increase your bottom line, if you will. So.
Sure.
All right. I thought I'd take a minute now to, talk about what we were going through a little while ago on a break, right? You said, how did you land on the name SWIN for, your organization? I mean, and anybody that knows me, obviously, my last name is Swinchock, right? My entire life, my nickname has been SWIN. But my entire working career, I worked with an organization where I had partners, right? And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I could go out on my own and, obviously rename or rebrand the organization SWIN, which stands for the Succession, Wealth, and Insurance Network. And
it's like you were born to do it.
Oh, I mean, I'm extremely proud of it. But, when I have conversations with a lot of professionals, when I'm, talking to some of my partners and whatnot, I tell them that the most important letter in that acronym is the N for network, right? Because you're only as strong as your network. And I work with so many small businesses, and a lot of these businesses that are extremely successful have one thing in common. They have a really great network.
Yeah,
and
trusted advisors.
Exactly.
Sure.
So, I appreciate Magnify being in our network.
Oh, thank you.
Being able to, refer small businesses, anybody that's looking to do a payroll, because I know at the end of the day that they're in good hands. Do you want to touch a little bit on, the value of a network or partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I can speak to the value of my network. I mentioned I've been working in this space for quite some years, but I've seen, like you mentioned, with small businesses in particular or startups, finding the right relationship and the right fit for you is invaluable. So relationships like a CPA, somebody that's more forward thinking or maybe more creative or business minded, is a great relationship for a small business to have. A banker, obviously, somebody on the wealth management side, even benefits brokers have been great for me, as well as HR advisors. All of those people touch the business and have a high level of expertise. And they also, in my network, those folks also treat people with a high level of care, which is important as well. So yeah, I think a network is everything. And when you work with professionals like you, Scott, that have that great relationship, that great network, you kind of have a go-to, and it's nice because you can kind of quarterback that for folks. And so once a business is linked up with you and the solutions that you provide, you become that trusted advisor and can quarterback additional relationships that would supplement their.
I think what's important to note is the fact then when we decide to do business together, whoever it is, you get access to our network as well. It's just not the services that we provide, but we're going to go out there and we're going to introduce you to people that are going to make your systems, your approach better. Because again, I'll go back to it. The main goals of a business from an employee perspective or an independent contractor perspective is the attraction of top talent, right? Okay. But then once you attract the top talent, how do you keep them there, right? Business can come and go wherever it wants. It stays where it's appreciated. And that goes back to employees and independent contractors as well. So I think that if we're putting our clients in a position to succeed with, a strong network or partnerships, then the sky's the limit for that organization.
Well, and for us too, when our clients grow, we grow. So
Exactly.
it's really health for all of us. And so it benefits all of us to make those introductions to strong partners, because if our clients are successful, so are we. Yeah. And so it really does benefit everybody.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a good place to end. I appreciate Lauren Tarbuk, the Senior Vice President at Magnify Payroll, also an owner, joining me today. And, I'd like her to be able to share how you can get a hold of her if you're interested in, some of the services they provide.
Sure. Yeah. Always happy for a connection, even if we don't do business together. I've said that for years. My personal cell phone is 412-600-7577. Many of our clients reach me that way. We also have a website, magnifypayroll.com. So you can check us out there, get some pictures of the team, etc. It's a really exciting website. And Scott, if you'd like to mention how people can get a hold of you as well.
Yeah, you can, obviously 724-754 8200 is the office line. www.swinetwork.com is the website. And I also wanted to add the fact that we're going to be growing our team here soon. So anyone out there interested in a new career or exploring the financial services industry, please feel free to reach out. Because come the start of Q3, that's when we wanted to have some new blood, new teammates, and the training will start then. So again, don't really have to have experience. If this is something that you can be passionate about and you're a good learner and you're coachable, we definitely should talk. And feel free to reach out, whether it's an email, a call, a message online. But we'll definitely entertain the idea of getting you on board the SWIN team. So, Lauren, appreciate you coming today.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
And like I said, if anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out.